Hello friends, my name is Shivam from DevOps Schools and I will help you to enable your learning process in various technologies of DevOps, artificial intelligence, machine learning, big data and many more. This is our initiative to help you by sharing multiple tutorials and videos. And if you want any specific tutorials or any particular topic, then please do comment in the below comment section and I will help you with it. Also, please subscribe to our premium services on YouTube, which will give you access to more content and videos to enhance your knowledge about all these topics. Also, if you want me to help you with regards to the online trainings and classroom sessions by our qualified trainers, then please do write me at contact@devopsschool.com. Thank you.
We have to set some agenda before we get started. So this is exam readiness on AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate level. And this course will focus more on the exam preparation, and it will not, ideally it will not talk about the services in detail, but what is that you have to expect for the exam. So that will be the agenda. So this course is designed with respect to the AWS examination pattern, and these are the 5 domains in which this course is designed. In domain 1, we will talk about designing resilient architectures, designing and defining performant architectures. In domain 3, we have how do we specify security to applications and architectures. In domain 4, we'll talk about design cost optimized architectures. Domain 5 is about operationally excellent architectures. So this is how the domain the course is laid out. And AWS exam pattern also follows these learning objectives. Okay, so that will be the agenda, and this agenda will comprise of multiple services, whatever we have. So we expect, I mean, you already have some awareness of some of these services on AWS. So in this course, we will talk about how do we make use of those services for having these objectives achieved, and what can we expect in the exam, right? So what is covered in this course? First of all, we will consider on the question strategies. This the focus of this exam readiness course is to provide you with strategies for answering exam questions and describe the type of content that is included in the exam. This course does not review specific content, right? We will not talk about in detail about a specific content. It identifies content that you will need to review on your own as part of the exam preparation. If you detect something which is unfamiliar term for you during this course, you may need to learn more about that concept. You may have to dive a little deeper in that concept if you figure out that there is some unfamiliar topics for you. Okay, you may want to dive in deep. So what to study, what are the key things to know for each domain, that will be sort of this course agenda. This course, as a note, we have mentioned this here, this course is not a substitute for architecting on AWS, because that is something which will give you more in detailed understanding of what are the different services in AWS, what you will use. So architecting AWS training or hands-on experience with AWS. So you are expected to have that before taking up this course. Some housekeeping, we are online, so we don't have to worry much about that. But one thing is, we will have some breaks. We will have a couple of breaks. One will be, I mean, time will not be fixed though, but 2 breaks will be shorter in duration, which will be for 10 to 15 minutes of duration. And one will be lunch hour, which will be for close to 45 minutes to 1 hour. So we will do that. Other than that, you may have questions. You can regularly stop in between. You may simply stop at any given point in time, so that you don't miss the questions. So you can regularly stop for questions, and you may need to limit, or if at all you may want, you may limit or defer questions so that we can cover all the contents. So if there are too many questions, we will also take the second route, and put the questions, park the questions for the answer maybe at the end of those modules. There is this certified solution architect official study guide. which will get you fully prepared through expert content and real world knowledge. This also comprises key exam essential topics, chapter review questions. So, and it will also give you access to Cybex interactive learning environment. This is official study guide written by the AWS experts. This is something, if you have not, you may want to refer this book. The exam, what to expect? Let's understand what is there. First of all, why to get certified? That is in general one of the question what people might ask. What is the benefit of you getting certified, and where does this certification fit in the level of AWS levels of certification? So AWS certification recognize IT professionals who possess the skills and technical knowledge necessary for designing and deploying and operating applications and infrastructure on AWS. And earning certifications helps you to gain visibility and credibility for your proven experience working with AWS. So if you have experience, you have to prove it. And also contributes to your organization's proficiency with AWS based applications. If your organization says I have proficiency, it adds value and it adds credibility. So it's having benefit for individuals as well as employers. So there are these certifications, different levels of certifications available. The AWS Solution Certified Solution Architect Associate Exam is intended for individuals who perform solution architect role. It's highly suitable for them. This exam validates an examinee's ability to effectively demonstrate knowledge on how to architect and deploy secure applications on AWS. And the exam validates ability to define a solution using architectural best design principles, and as well customer requirements, as well as best principles. You will have a combination of that, and you will be able to provide implementation guidance based on best practices to the organization throughout the life cycle of the project. Right? These are the different levels of certifications what you can achieve after this. Professionals on a solution architect, and then you have developer, certified developer associate, and certified DevOps engineer professional, and then certified SysOps administrator and DevOps engineer professional. And then there are some specialty certifications which can be opted as well. And how do you maintain? Yeah, please go ahead.
So I'm a lead software developer. So which one is the best certification I can do, architect or the developer?
You are which developer?
I'm in Java.
No, you said you are something.
No. Which is good? Which certification is good for me? I'm lead software developer, team lead.
Lead software developer. Sorry. Okay. So if you are a lead, it's highly recommended that you can go for both. But if you have to choose between both, you can choose for solution architect, because that will give you a sort of high level visibility on all the services, and it will help you move up towards the ladder. You may be moving up in the ladder, right? So that will help you in that.
Okay.
Ideally, I would recommend both. If you are still hands on, I would recommend both.
Okay. I don't have working experience in AWS, but yeah.
You will gain it as you use it.
Okay, and this there are two certifications, right? Now the exam pattern SSA C01 and SSA C02. So the current thing is C02, right? So is it this course covers that pattern of latest?
Yes, this course covers the latest pattern. Yeah.
So we should go with C02, right? The exam
Yes.
from now on. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay. So recertification every 2 years. Now it is made 3 years since starting this year. So it is 3 years now for a solution architect. And if you want to increase the certification level, you will also go for a solution architect professional. Okay. So you have to maintain that. So anyhow, so the questions allocation is also based on this percentage what we see here. This will be the percentage of the allocation on the topics. So if the first module what we will talk about design resilient architectures, it will cover 34% of the questions. Second module will talk about 24% of questions, and the third module specifies secure applications and architectures. It will comprise of 26% of questions. Design cost optimized architectures, it will comprise 10%, and define operationally excellent architectures will have 6%. Overall, you will be examined on all these modules with this distribution, right? And with respect to logistics for the exam, you will have to carry 2 ID proofs with you. One must be government issued ID as well, and you will not be allowed to carry anything in your pocket. You have to empty that and lock up some in some personal space. They will give you some space, and you have to electronically take the test. You must also sign a non-disclosure agreement before taking the test. So this is what logistics will require. Yeah. The exam mechanics are like this. You will have mostly multiple questions, multiple choice questions with both single selection and multiple selection also. And there is no penalty for guessing. We recommend that you don't spend too much time on a question that you don't know. Instead, mark a question that you want to come back and move on to the next one. There may be some questions which you might not have a straightforward answer at any given point in time. You have an ability to mark the question and come back in future. At the end of that, you can return to all the marked questions for further review, and you can answer them. If you limit your time on questions you don't know, you will not have adequate time. Okay, so at the end, if you want, you can come back. You can return to all the marked questions, and there is no penalty as well to guess some answers. So if you are not aware of some answers, you may choose some of the nearest answer which you feel like. But be sure to answer every question, because there is no negative marking as such. If you don't know answer, make the most intelligent and nearest guess, right? So this is how your single answer will be. Which animal is a mammal? Obviously, you know that. This is sort of an example of a single response, and then you will have multiple responses like this. So you will have to select 3 answers in this. So you have these 3 answers. This test does not restrict or validate the number of answers selected. So ensure that you are selecting specified number of answers. You have to select that. And there will be some questions which will have to have a series of steps executed before you achieve that. So this is a sort of example of that. So you have to evaluate these steps in a rational manner. You have to evaluate that. Okay. You will have questions maybe of this format as well. And then this is how you can mark questions which are flagged, which are unanswered. You mark them, come back at the end of the after you end all your questions, you come back to mark questions and review them and answer it later. You should it's highly recommended that you use this feature. Okay. So some general strategies for answering questions: read the questions and answer in full one time through. Okay. Identify the features mentioned in the answer. You have to identify that. You have to eliminate something which is obviously wrong. By reading carefully and thorough process of elimination, you can often answer questions. At least you can narrow the set of right answers for you. If you feel that 2 answers are obviously wrong, you should first eliminate that, and then you will have a small set to select right answer from. Okay. Identify the text in questions that implies certain AWS features. Example here, look at this: required IOPS or data retrieval times. This is some highlighting feature. You have to pay attention to that, and you have to pay attention to some qualifying clauses as well, like in the most cost-effective way. Many a times people miss this sort of qualifying cases, but it is something which the exam tests you. They will test you whether you are choosing the most cost-effective way or not, or best fulfill. There will be some clauses, you have to note that. So throughout this course you will see several examples of that nature, and we will understand how to eliminate certain answers and eliminate possibly obviously wrong answers to narrow down the selection of right answers also. Okay, so this is about the high level structure about the exam. Let's dive into details on each modules now. Any questions before we start module 1?
So currently we have online thing also, right, to take the exam. No need to go to the exam center. So um, is it okay to take from?
So, yeah, you can do that. You will get specialized instructions from once you register for that. You will get the appropriate instructions from the AWS team, examination team. They will give you right instructions as to what to do. You will not have to have other parallel applications running and all. You will have to have your webcam open. You will have to be seated in the lighted direction. All those instructions you will get it via the email. They will communicate to you.
Okay, I just want to know. Yeah, even it is better to take from the exam center because of power cut or something, we cannot take or something like that, right? It will be have lot of disturbance here. So, is there in this COVID situation we have any exam center which is open? So
I
we
am
can.
not aware of it. No, I am not very sure. Maybe we can have a check on the AWS helpline. Maybe we can check. But
Okay,
honestly,
okay, okay. Thank you. Yeah.
no problem. So first module will be about designing resilient architectures. This is the first domain, and the outline of the exam outline in this topic is how do you choose reliable and resilient storage is one topic of this module. How do you design decoupling mechanism using AWS services? This is another topic in the module. How do you design a multi-tier architecture solution? And lastly, how do you determine how to design high availability and fault tolerant solutions? So this is the exam objective, design resilient architectures, and these are the sub objectives, I can say, or outline of this module. So first, let's see the first outline, which is choose reliable resilient storage. Okay. So in this first topic, what we will talk about is the instance store, is EC2 instance store. So what are EC2 instance store? It provides temporary block level storage for your applications or instances, I can say. These are ephemeral volumes. They are not used as a permanent storage. Only certain EC2 instances will be accessing this instance store. This storage is located on disks that are physically attached to the host computer. All right. Instance store is ideal for temporary storage of information that changes frequently. It might be like your application buffers or application caches or scratch data, any temporary content which is developed by your application that will be suitable for using instance store, or any data that is replicated across a fleet of instances, maybe if you have some pool of web servers. So instance store consists of one or more instance store volumes which will be exposed as block devices. Okay, and the size of instance store as well as the number of devices will vary by instance type. According to your instance type, you will choose what is the size of your instance store you select. Okay. While an instance store is dedicated to a particular instance, the subsystem is shared among the instances on a host computer. Okay. So you will have your EC2 instance store are attached to your EC2 instances in general. And then there is this elastic block storage, EBS, which provides a block level storage for your VMs. Okay, it provides block level storage volumes to be used with EC2 instances. EBS volumes are highly available and reliable storage volumes, and you can attach them to any running instances that is in the same availability zone. All right. EBS volumes that are attached to an EC2 instance are exposed as storage volumes that persist independently across the life of instance. With EBS, you only pay for what you use, but you attach it to EC2 instances. And they can persist independently as well. Even after EC2 instance is down, your EBS can still exist. It is good to provide some data which can be accessed quickly and can stay for a long-term persistence. You may also want to create snapshots of your EBS volumes, just that in case you want to take a backup of your drives, you can take snapshots and you can store that snapshots at any given point in time in S3. So snapshots are can also be incremental backups as well. You may always want to have a snapshot of your volume in incremental fashion. Every hour take a backup, or every end of day you take a backup. That sort of automation you can do. And snapshots are it basically minimizes your retrieval. If there is a failure on the block storage, you want to retrieve that from snapshots. That's something which you can do. And if you delete a snapshot, only the unique snapshot will be deleted. You might again create a snapshot as well. Snapshots can be rewritten. So EBS is a good choice when you need access to data quickly and you want to have long-term persistence, as mentioned already here. And EBS volumes are particularly well suited for applications to be used like primary storage of file system maybe, or you might also use it for databases or any application that requires fine low-level granular updates. And it might also require access to raw files, edit the files during in the application. EBS is also well suited for both database style application as well as applications which require intensive throughput for any application. So EBS volume types, this is something which you have to understand for the exam and the use cases where these this fit. So general purpose SSD will come for both volumes, which is low latency interactive applications. Okay, and then provisioned IOPS, which will be good for databases like NoSQL or relational any type of database. And throughput optimized HDD, which will be good for high throughput, which use cases are big data applications, data warehouse applications, or log processing, where you have huge amount of data which is coming. Throughput optimized EBS is good. And cold HDD is something which is of large volumes of data that is infrequently accessed. If you want to have a if you are good for data which is not infrequently accessed, it is something which gives you at a lower price. This comes at a lower price. Volume sizes, have a look at that. It is 1 gigabytes to 16 TB. This is 4 gigs to 16 terabytes. This is 500 gigs to 16 terabytes, and this is also 500 gigs to 16 terabytes. So here these are sort of bigger in volumes. And you just have a look at the IOPS. These are IOPS are highly optimized. These are optimized for higher IOPS. This is 10,000 IOPS and this is 32,000 IOPS. And this is good at 500 IOPS and 250 IOPS. IOPS is less here, but this is having little higher throughput. This is having little lower throughput. Okay. So the dominant performance here, again, throughput examples are also given here. 160 MB megabytes you have, and here you have 500 megabytes. But this comes at a little lower cost. And then you have the performance, dominant performance attribute is for IOPS, and this is for throughput. If you have any questions on this, what will fill your gaps? You may just want to go through some EBS frequently asked questions. Read the white papers on this storage services overview. And there are some labs, you can go through that for understanding a little more about that. And you can also look at the EC2 instance store documentation for understanding. So these are some areas where you can fill your gaps if you want to. All right. And let's have a sample question on how you may see questions on EC2. A database is running on an Amazon EC2 instance. The database software has a backup feature that requires block storage. What storage option would be lowest cost option for data backup? So have a look at this question and try to identify important clauses which are mentioned here so that you arrive at the nearest answer. So let me do that for you if you want. So these are the things what you may want to highlight. A database is running on Amazon EC2 instance. So you have a database running on EC2 instance and it requires block storage. Lowest cost option, that is something which you have to understand. Lowest cost option. So let's see one by one. Amazon Glacier is not a block storage. Definitely it's not a block storage. It is object storage. Then you have S3, definitely not a block storage. It is object storage. And you may now have to choose between these two choices. One is throughput optimized HDD and one is cold HDD. Now, if you have to choose between these two, you have to understand this answer whether it is which is lowest cost option. And obviously, the lowest cost is with cold HDD. So this last answer is sort of eliminated, and you're left with this. All right. Then let's understand, look at the second question. A company has decided to host a server on an Amazon EC2 instance. The main requirement for this server is to process large quantities of logs. Which of the following Amazon EBS volume types would be ideal for implementation? Now this question is a little trickier because all the choices are coming from EBS only. Okay, so you are not getting any external service. So this is narrowed to a specific service. So you may have to understand all these types. Okay, so let's look at highlight some of these. Maybe you can go ahead and highlight some of these important points what you have to understand in this question. Okay, let me do that for you. So yeah, Amazon EC2 instance processing large quantities of log. It is telling it is for processing large quantities of logs, which means it requires more throughput. Okay. So what is the ideal thing? Obviously, these are all not good for that throughput optimized thing. The last choice what we saw is throughput optimized HDD. All right, so this is how you have to eliminate obviously wrong answers and come narrow down to one answer. Or if you have multiple selections also, you will have to choose accordingly. Determine how to design. This is the sort of sub object, second sub object in the current domain. How to design decoupling mechanism using AWS services. So the key to decoupling is to build components so that they do not have tight dependencies on each other. If one component isn't working or it is slow or busy, the other components in the same in the system should continue to operate. So that is something which is key. Loose coupling isolates the layers and components of your application, and it makes your applications each component interact asynchronously with the others. Let's take an example here. In an order web application, order management web application, you can isolate the app servers from the web server and the database. Unlike in what is there in this image, you might want to isolate them. The app server does not know about the web server, and which in turn doesn't know about the downstream components. So here we have different choices which we have to choose from. We might use a queuing mechanism, like in this image. We'll use a queuing mechanism. We will use SQS, where orders are sent to a queue and processed by workers, or we also call them as order dispatchers. Once they become available, if an order dispatcher is busy at any given point in time, if you are heavily loaded, your requests will not fail. So the order dispatcher or worker will at any given point in time come to the queue, check new orders and process them. Okay. And in turn, the web server will get acknowledgement from the queue instead by the workers. So queue will acknowledge that the request is received, and worker will do the work for us.
Please enroll our general membership for $399 plan to get access of all the parts.
Along with that, you can access our other tutorials such as Docker, Ansible, Jenkins, Terraform, Splunk, AWS, Azure, and various other DevOps related premium tutorials with our channel membership. If you would have any issues with our channel membership, you can drop an email to us at contact@devopsschool.com, or you can also unsubscribe from channel membership anytime if you don't want to continue or did not like the video. To get our channel membership, click onto the join button, select the $399 plan and grow your skills immensely. Please be kind enough to like it, and you can comment any of your doubts and queries. We will reply to them at the earliest. Thanks for watching.